Hey, what's up everybody? J. Scott Helms here. Today we're going to talk about these chains I got thrown over my shoulder. If you've ever seen any of those strongman competitions where they're toting the chains around, or maybe your local gym has some, maybe that jerk you work with that has every piece of equipment known to man in his home gym. There's also a great video on YouTube of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson doing dips with that giant boat anchor chain wrapped around his neck. Maybe you've seen him somewhere and you find yourself having a little bit of chain envy. Okay? Today I'm going to take you out to my shop and I'm going to show you what you need to make them, how much it's going to cost you, and then when we're all done we'll bring them back in here and I'll show you what the finished product looks like. Alright, let's go out and get started. Alright, so as I said, we're going to be working on chains today. For whatever your purpose is, this is going to be geared more towards using them on your Olympic barbells, your easy curl bar, something along those lines, but you can cut these chains and do anything you want with them. My primary goal was to make a good set to have you can see, with my half rack inside the house. But we're out here in the shop doing this today, so first thing I'm going to do is go over what you need to get started. So the first thing is going to be chain, and chain is expensive if you've not looked for it, or maybe you have, and you see like these strongman shows, they're using this like boat anchor chain with links that are like this big. I have no way to get a hold of that out here where I live. The best I can come up with is 3/8 chain, so even if you use it, it's good chain, you just may have to use more of it. You can also probably find 1/2 inch chain. About the only place I have around me is Lowe's, and if you've seen any of my other videos, it's a small Lowe's. They don't carry as much as some of the big superstores, so I'm kind of working with what I got. You can get 1/2 inch chain, and this setup will work the same way for it, but we're using 3/8 chain today, and I'll show you what I got. You should be able to get it as well. This is our chain. It's in the bucket. It comes from Harbor Freight, and it's 15 foot of 3/8 chain. And I'll show you a piece of this in just a second. But this is where I got it. Alright, this is the chain that's in the bucket. Alright, so it looks good if you got it in the house or in the garage. It's a good looking chain. Alright, next thing you're going to need is you're going to need some of these D-rings, at least 2 of them. Get as many as you want. These are really heavy duty. They are 3/8, that's the thickness here. This might be a little bit better. Alright, same thing. So 3/8 is the thickness here, and they're 4 3/4 top to bottom. Alright. Got these at Lowe's. It'll look like this when you find it. They were about $5 a piece. I got 4 of them. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying. Got 4 of them. Alright, so you'll need that. You will also need, and these are kind of optional, and I'll show you what I did with them later in the video. These are quick links. So it's a 3/8 chain link that has the threaded lock on it. So you can open it up, slip your chain in, and then you lock it back down. You can just do it by hand, but I also grabbed 4 of these, and like I said, I'll show you what I did with them a little bit later. Next thing you'll need is one of these steel welded rings. So you can probably see it's welded right here. It's 3 inches on the inside, and you'll need that 3 inches because your 2-inch bar will take up the top part, and your D-ring will take up that bottom part. So with this on there, the 3-inch diameter will still allow you to slide this up on your bar. It's like 3D. Alright, now the D-rings I got at Lowe's. I'll still put a link down there. It should be accessible. You should be able to find those at Lowe's, Home Depot, Rural King, Tractor Supply, Southern States. Anywhere I'll carry those. These I ended up having to order. My Lowe's only had 2-inch diameter, which is just enough to fit up on your bar. I needed 3-inch, so I had to order these. I couldn't find them anywhere locally, but you might be able to find them at your Lowe's, Tractor Supply, hardware store. You might be able to find them. If not, I will put a link to these down below. I got these on Amazon. It was a 2-pack, and I think they were about maybe $8, so not too bad. All right, so that's all the hardware you need to get started. The D-ring, the chain, the quick links that are optional, and the ring. All right. That chain comes in a 15-foot piece inside the bucket, so you're going to have to cut it down. So to do that, there are many ways you can do it, but the way I'm going to do it today, and I'll show you all the tools I'm using, I'm going to use a Sawzall to cut it, just like this. All right. You're going to need a tape measure and a marking stick of some sort. I have a Sharpie. Safety glasses or your regular prescriptions. And when you cut that chain, the links are going to be hot and sharp. So either a good pair of leather gloves or some pliers. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the camera around and show you the jig I made for cutting this chain the same length every time. Now before I do that, let's talk about that length. If you Google this and look online, there are lots of different ideas on how long that chain should be. It really boils down to two things: your height and what you're doing with it. Now these chains I'm doing today are going to be strictly for bench press, squatting, curl bars. All right, so you look online, most of the websites I saw have you cut the chain or buy the chain at about 5'7" or 5'8" inches per chain, and you're going to do multiples of these so that you have enough to put on both sides of your bar. I have enough chain today. We'll be able to do 6 5-foot lengths. All right, now I chose 5 foot because, well, number one, I'm 5'8". All right, so even at my bench press, curling, you know, you're just chest high, and for squats across the back of the shoulder or even across the front, 5 foot is going to give me about 4 inches on the ground, close to it anyway. Some cases a little more. Obviously, if you're curling, you're down lower, I'll have more chain on the floor. But if you're taller, you might want to cut it at 5'4" inches, 5'8" inches. The best thing I can tell you is get a measurement from your shoulders where your bar is going to be, because that's probably going to be the highest point you're going to have that chain. When you're laying down to bench press, it's obviously going to be a lot lower, so almost any length would probably work. But what I'm doing today, everything is laid out at 5 foot. Keep in mind, you're going to want to measure that for yourself and then cut everything to that measurement. Okay? So what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to flip this camera and I'm going to show you my setup that you can't see me pointing to. My setup for cutting it the same length every time. Alright? Stand by while I move the camera. Okay, so I got the camera turned where you can see my work surface here. And it might be a little difficult to see, but right here, if you can see that black Sharpie mark, that mark down to this nail is 5 foot. So let me show you how I did this. First thing you're going to do is take your D-ring, go ahead and open that up. While I'm doing that, I'm going to tell you, it is hot out here today, so the longer we go, the wetter my shirt's going to be. Get that out of the way. Alright, that's most of the plastic. We can work with that. So the first thing you're going to do is take that D-ring and pull it right around that nail. So let me get up here. I guess you can't really see it, so I'm going to take the camera in a little bit closer for you. Alright, so in case you couldn't see it before, that's the nail and the D-ring right there. And I just got my workbench here, and that Sharpie mark right there is 5 foot from the nail. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to dump this chain out. And this is just as it comes. These buckets have a tab on them. You just tear that open, peel the band off. just like that, and then do that. Alright. This, there it goes. Then the chain. Now the chain will come, it'll have a little tie on it so you can find the end of it pretty easily. It's not Christmas, so I'm going to take it off. Just dump it. Alright. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take that chain, find the end of it that you took your Christmas wrapping off of, and then go connect it to that D-ring. Alright. Just like that. Now take the D-ring and put it back on your nail. So, once you've got that on there, pull your chain tight to your mark, which is here. Alright, that's probably a little bit better. Here's the Sharpie mark again. Here's your chain that is connected to the D-ring and the nail. Pull it tight, but not tight enough to rip your nail out. Just take all the slack out of it. For me, this chain ends up just past the 5-foot mark on the Sharpie. I know it's hard to see, but you can see with the pen that I'm right at the edge of a link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that following link so that that leaves me just about 5 foot, probably 5 foot and an inch. Okay? So next thing we're going to do is we're going to hold that, pull the slack out of it, and then we're just going to put a mark on the link we want to cut. Just like that. Alright? So we're going to relocate and I'm going to show you how I cut it. Alright, so before we move and cut this chain, I want to explain something. I know I told you to take your measurement from where your bar would sit on your shoulders. For me, that was 5 foot. Keep in mind, you're putting it on that D-ring, ill prepared, so you can put it on your bar. Alright, so all your chain will be hanging down here. So when I say put the D-ring on the nail, you're going to be taking, instead of hooking the chain on the nail and then marking it at 5 foot, you're including this D-ring in that 5 foot. And the reason I'm doing that is because that bucket comes with 15 foot of chain. If I just pull it out and cut 5 foot, I'm only going to get 2 full pieces and then one that's going to be several inches short. So by adding the D-ring into your measurement, you've got 4 inches here. You're saving some of that chain so you can get 3 sections out of that bucket. Alright, so that's why I started with the D-ring. So D-ring goes on the nail, chain goes in the D-ring, then pull it out to your measurement. Okay? Now let's go cut it and I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so there are any number of ways you can cut this chain. As I said, I'm using a Sawzall today. You could do this with bolt cutters if you have a big enough pair of bolt cutters. You could do this with a hacksaw. You could do it with an air cutoff tool. You could do it any way you choose. I've got mine in a vise just tight enough to hold the chain so that the Sawzall doesn't pull it back out. So let's cut one. A chain link. So that's one side. What I'll do is I'll flip it over and we'll cut it from the other side. Alright, here we go. Alright, so it's cut all the way through, both sides. So as I said, when you cut it, this link that we just cut is going to be super hot and it's going to be sharp. So either a good pair of leather gloves or pliers to get hold of that cut link. Alright, so watch your feet. There's a good chance the other side will fall when you do this. I'm just loosening this up. There you go. one finished section. So let's take the camera back over and I'll show you what to do next. Alright, so that was one 5-foot cut. We're going to skip ahead and say that you've already cut your entire chain into sections. And I'm going to show you how to assemble it, but before I do that, I want to show you what the optional quick links were for. Alright, so the first one of these I made, I did a test run, and the first bucket of chain I bought came up short. And what I mean by that is I did not get 15 foot of chain. So I had one piece that came up a bit short. It might be hard to see, but this is about 6 inches too short. So what I did was, where I had cut everything to the 5 foot, another piece of chain I had left over was about this long. Alright, it's maybe 6 or 8 inches. So what I did to get my 5 foot length back on the one that was too short is you take that quick link, you pop it through there, and then your actual piece of chain, your length of chain, on there as well, and just run it down, and now that gives you the 5 foot piece of chain without having to go and buy another bucket, and you only need a few inches. Now I say that's optional because maybe you get exactly what you paid for. It just so happens I didn't. Again, the quick links are optional, but it will let you add chain. Another thing you can do with it that someone suggested to me was, if you were using this chain outside for something, for your sled pulls, if you're wrapping it around you while you're doing tire flips, whatever you're doing, you could link two pieces together with this instead of just draping one big long piece over you, or two pieces over you. You could link them together and make it one and sort of consolidate. Alright, so let's put this whole thing together and see what we got. So it starts with that welded ring that I showed you early on. That, your D-ring, just going to connect that on like that, and then connect all your lengths of chain to your D-ring. In this case it's 3, however many you choose to do, connect on there. 1, 2, and 3. Right, that's what you end up with. Now this one, I'm just going to guess, I don't have any scales out here, probably 25, maybe 30 pounds. So if you had these on either side, I'm going to guess you would get 50 or 60 pounds. Might be overkill, probably more than I need all at once, but it gives you options. Alright, so as promised, we're going to take a look at the finished product here. I got one hanging on each side. Couple of things. One, once I'm done talking, I'm going to take the camera and give you a full-length shot of this so you can see it up close and a little bit better. And you can see also it's in the, I've got it set up for incline bench, so you can see a little bit more of it stretched out. Two, I think when we were out in the shop working on it, I guessed at the weight. When I came in, I actually weighed one of them, and it was just over 20 pounds. It was like 20 pounds and 3 ounces. So you can add a little better than 40 pounds doing what we did here today. Alright, so I'm going to take that, I'm going to stop talking, I'm going to give you a good look at this thing hanging here. Alright, hold tight. Alright, here we go. Starting at the top there, you can see that welded ring right there, and our D-ring, and of course all the rest is chain. So I'll give you a good look at it here. And you can see how much I got pulled up on the floor there. Probably be a little bit more, but I'm running at an angle to work around my kettlebells. Alright, and I have one on both sides. Same thing. Alright. I think it came out pretty good. I'd also like to add that that chain that came out of the buckets, you can see it's chromed. It was also clean. It's not oily. It's not greasy. Side shot there. All right. All right, there you go.